The starter is prepared by Wayne Nish in New York City. It features caviar and 2 other kinds of roe, garnishing a disc of raw flattened lobster meat. Then Debbie Gold offers a main course from Kansas City. It's spiced antelope loin, served with a compote of chestnuts, bacon, sour cherries, and wild mushrooms. Finally, J.J. Stith prepares dessert from Las Vegas. It's poached pears served on an almond pastry and garnished with Maya lemon-flavored ice cream. Restaurant March opened in an elegant turn-of-the-century Midtown Manhattan townhouse in 1990. The chef and co-owner is Wayne Nish. He came to cooking relatively late, at age 32, after studying journalism and architecture in college. His innovative cooking is demonstrated with Carpaccio of Lobster and Three Roes.
The first one is a Carpaccio of Maine lobster. Now, I've chosen to call it a Carpaccio because the lobster meat is going to be pounded. It is eaten raw. When I first came across a dish similar to this in Japan, it was a sashimi, and the lobster meat was cut into half-inch cubes. The difference, one of the differences in the food cultures between European influence or Eurocentric Western culture and Asian one is that textures in Japanese and Chinese food cultures are celebrated that we don't normally expect to see here. And one of them is in certain gelatinous foods and chewy ones like octopus, sea cucumber, raw lobster are very common. What I opted to do in adapting the idea to a dish that would be suitable for March Restaurant would be to pound it and thereby making it a softer texture and something that would be much more palatable to a Western taste. It's been enormously popular. And in this particular dish, I'm only using the tail. And what I will typically do is hold the lobster body upside down, keeping the feet underneath my hand and the claws to my side, grab the tail with my other hand and twist. I have then killed the lobster rapidly. I will use the body and the claws for another dish somewhere else in the menu, and I've not got the tail completely separated. I've also reserved all the juices, which I'm going to use later. And peel the bottom of the carapace off completely. Now take a spoon and move it along each section of the tail, freeing the meat completely on the inside.
The tail is cut, then pounded between sheets of plastic wrap.
The only thing I'll remove here is the vein. And then I've got a completely cleaned lobster tail meat. For the purposes of this dish, we'll get 2.5 portions or so out of each lobster tail. And I'll show one. I'll lay another sheet right on top, and then take a meat pounder and completely pound it out to tenderize it, break up the fiber. I'll then take a pastry cutter and lay it over the 2 sheets and use the back of the spoon to spread out the lobster meat into a presentable form. cut around it to be able to access it easily. And lift off the top sheet of plastic. I'm using a piece of, a leaf of shiso, which is a very common Japanese herb that is somewhat related to mint and basil family. It has a similar mentholated type flavor. I'll then turn the plastic film with the lobster meat upside down. The liquid from the body of the lobster that's been reserved will begin to solidify in a refrigerator if it's cold. And then I'll use it to dress the top of the lobster meat. I'm going to garnish it with 3 roes. One is a Japanese preparation called mentaiko. Mentaiko is a spicy cod roe, or it's cod roe that's been taken out of the fish in its sack and cured with salt and chili peppers. It's then cured for a period of time and served as and used as a condiment for a lot of different sushi dishes. I'm going to make a small quenelle or lozenge shape with 2 different spoons. I'm then taking a piece of what the Japanese call uni. Uni is sea urchin roe. And this particular sea urchin roe comes from California. There are 2 types available in the United States, from California and from Maine. So for appearance sake, the California variety is more desirable. And that's what this is. A lot of fish products here, seafood products from that we use at March are from Japanese suppliers, primarily because I can, and we have a great source here, but also because their quality is absolutely pristine. Very, very little of the fish and seafood that we use here comes through the Fulton Street Market. I'm preferring instead to deal directly with vendors that ship directly from the sources. Russian Osetra caviar finishes the garnishing of the dish.
The American restaurant in Kansas City has been a springboard for numerous young chefs around the country. Now it features the cuisine of Debbie Gold and her husband, Michael Smith. In 1997, they were named Chefs to Watch by Esquire's John Mariani. Here is Chef Gold's spice-rubbed antelope loin.
And let's see, why don't we start with the rub? Now, when we were deciding on what kind of flavors we were going to do, I decided that first off, we wanted a little sweetness, so we did some brown sugar. So I'm going to add the brown sugar. And what else the sugar is going to do is when you go to saute it, it's going to add a real nice caramelization. It'll help the antelope get some real nice color. There isn't a lot of fat in antelope. It's very, very lean. So the sugar will help bring out some more flavor. We did some really nice hot paprika to give it a little bit of spice. Let me see, I've got a little bit of cinnamon. Got a little bit of coriander. What am I missing? Allspice and cardamom. Cardamom. Allspice. Let's see, we'll mix these all up. Now at this point you could add salt and pepper to the rub if you want, but I always season the meat, so put a little bit of the spice on the side so I can use that again. I'm just going to roll the antelope right in the spice.
It's seared in oil.
I'm going to make sure the whole piece of meat gets caramelized nicely on all sides. You can see how nice and dark and brown it's getting, a little bit from the spices, but a lot of it from the sugar that we added to the spice rub. Now we're going to take the antelope and pop it in the oven, probably 3 or 4 minutes because it's still rare inside and we want to cook it to about medium rare.
Garnish is a bacon, chestnut, cherry, and mushroom compote.
Cut up a couple more chestnuts. Okay, so our bacon is caramelizing up very nicely. We'll add some chestnuts. Let those toast for a few minutes in the pan. I'm going to add my mushrooms.
Black trumpet mushrooms.
The last thing I'm going to do is add some sour cherries. Let the heat kind of moisten those up a little bit. Glaze it all with a little bit of brandy.
Out of the oven, the antelope rests before carving. Reduced antelope stock and butter finish the compote.
Now, just to finish the sauce, add a tablespoon of butter.
The plate also includes a thimble of polenta.
Take a nice mix of our chestnuts and the bacon. Drizzle some sauce. Some lovely antelope to enjoy.
Aqua is one of the high-end operations in the fancy Bellagio Resort in Las Vegas. At taping time, Juanita J. Stith, known as JJ, was the pastry chef. After a stint in the military, she attended the California Culinary Academy in San Francisco, then worked in the Bay Area. Here is her pear financier. The poaching liquid for the pears includes sugar, water, a cinnamon stick, and vanilla bean.
Have poaching pears. I peeled the pears. They're in the poaching liquid 3-to-1, 3 parts water, 1 part sugar, with vanilla bean and cinnamon stick. I'm going to bring that to a simmer, and then I'm going to turn it down and cover it with parchment and let them cook until tender. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour. Next, I'll be making the financier batter. In a KitchenAid mixing bowl, I have almond meal, which is ground almonds, flour, sugar, and salt. With a whisk, just to mix up the flour and the almond meal really good. And I'm going to pour in slowly eggs and vanilla mixed together. And when that's incorporated, I'm going to slowly pour in melted brown butter. Take it off to finish mixing by hand. You end up with a nice smooth batter, which is great for a cake just alone. To bake off the pear financier, the pears have been cooked and cooled in the walk-in until they're all the way cold, and the bottom has been cored out. I prepared a mold with butter and flour. It's going on a sizzle pan. I'm going to pipe, after putting the batter into a piping bag, I'm going to pipe a thin layer in the bottom, a little bit inside. Set the pear on top. It's then baked for about 20 minutes in a 375-degree oven until done. One of the garnishes for this dish is a dehydrated pear chip, which can also be done in the oven. This is a dehydrator. I just brought it from a local like Kmart, Target store, type store like that. What you do is you thinly slice the pear on a mandolin or a slicer, and then you dip them in simple syrup. Simple syrup being a equal part ratio sugar and water. Once that's done, you drain off the excess water, and then you put them on the dehydrator until they're crisp. When you take them off, they should be snapped right in half. So now I'm making a sugar spiral. I've cooked the pot of sugar until it's lightly caramelized, and then I've cooled it down. And now I'm going to spiral it on my steel. Because it's so cold, it cools down really quick. There we go. I need to do another one. To unmold the pear, you press up on a removable bottom pan. You take the bottom off. I'll be using huckleberry sauce and basil sauce because they complement the pear. The financier itself being really rich. The basil sauce helps cut the richness of the butter and the almond meal. The huckleberry is just to lighten it up, that taste a little bit, give it a little berryness. Huckleberry sauce. And then the basil. Next I'll be using the pear chip. And
insert a little slice in the pear itself. Insert the chip. To accompany this dish, I'm using Meyer lemon ice cream. Meyer lemons are really the sweetest of the lemons. They have a really fresh taste to them. They're, to me, the best lemon on the face of the earth because of what they do for this pear is this is heavy and this is light. Ice cream. Basil sprig. I'm garnishing with a sugar spiral. Sort of. And a sprig of basil. Finished presentation.